Welcome to today's video. I survived Seneca's crazy mental challenges for a week. The floor is cold, it's 6 a.m., and every single muscle in my back is staging a protest. This is not my bed, and this is completely intentional. For the next 7 days, I'm swapping my modern comforts for some ancient wisdom. I'm going to live by the rules of Seneca, a Stoic philosopher who was convinced that the only path to a tough mind was through hardship. In a world that sells us comfort at every single turn, I have to know, can intentionally making your life harder actually make you mentally stronger? Or did I just sign up for a week of pointless suffering? Well, there's only one way to find out. Let's be real for a second. Modern life can make you soft. I get anxious when my Wi-Fi signal drops. I get genuinely irritated when my coffee order is wrong, and I stress out about things that are completely out of my hands. It feels like my mental armor has gotten pretty thin over the years. And I don't think I'm alone in feeling that way. So I looked to the past for an answer, and I stumbled upon a 2000-year-old philosophy called Stoicism. The Roman philosopher Seneca laid out these practical exercises designed to build what he called an inner citadel, basically a fortress of inner strength that can't be touched by external chaos. His writing is pretty much a roadmap to resilience, a way to train your mind just like you train your body. So for 1 week, I'm committing to 3 of his most intense ideas. First, voluntary hardship. This means I'm intentionally choosing to be uncomfortable. For me, that looks like sleeping on the floor and eating a diet of only the most basic bland food I can think of. The goal isn't to punish myself. It's to appreciate what I normally have and hopefully build a higher tolerance for discomfort. Second, premeditation of adversity, or premeditatio malorum. This is the scary one. Every single morning I have to sit down and vividly imagine worst-case scenarios like losing my job, a sudden health crisis, you name it. The theory is that by mentally rehearsing a disaster, you strip it of its power to shock and scare you. You're kind of inoculating yourself against life's chaos. And third, daily reflection. Every evening, I'll review my day in a journal, taking a hard look at my actions and reactions without any judgment. Seneca thought this was absolutely critical for self-improvement and for understanding your own weird patterns. So what's my guess? I'll either end this week a calmer, more resilient person with a crazy new appreciation for my life, or I'll be a sleep-deprived, anxious wreck who proves that some ancient ideas are best left in the past. Let's do this. The first night on the floor was, in a word, brutal. I woke up with aches in places I didn't even know I had. My body, which is very accustomed to a memory foam mattress, was in open rebellion. Breakfast was a sad bowl of plain oatmeal with water. Lunch was boiled potatoes, dinner was rice and beans. My taste buds were in mourning. Then came the premeditatio malorum. Sitting on that same hard floor, I tried to visualize getting fired. It felt completely unnatural, almost dangerous, like I was tempting fate. The anxiety was real. My mind kept trying to slip away and think about literally anything else. Seneca said we suffer more in imagination than in reality, but right then, my imagination was doing a fantastic job of making me suffer. Day 2 was more of the same, but with a dull headache kicking in from zero caffeine and sugar. I was so irritable, I actually snapped at a telemarketer. During my evening reflection, I wrote down my failures honestly. I wasn't calm, I wasn't resilient, I was just tired and hungry. I asked myself Seneca's question, is this the condition that I feared? And my answer was a loud, clear, yeah, it's pretty miserable. Something shifted on day 3. I woke up from the floor feeling, well, not good, but functional. My body was starting to adapt. The plain food was still incredibly bland, but I noticed something weird. I was actually tasting it. The simple saltiness of the beans, the earthy texture of the potato. It wasn't exciting, but it was real. The real breakthrough came that afternoon. I got an email with some unexpected bad news about a project. Normally that would send a jolt of panic right through me. It would ruin my day. I'd obsess, imagine the worst, and probably fire off a passive-aggressive email. But this time, I just looked at it. I had spent that very morning mentally rehearsing a far worse scenario, a true career-ending disaster. And compared to that catastrophe I'd imagined, this was just a problem, a manageable one. For the very first time, I got it. The exercise wasn't about dwelling on the negative. It was about building perspective. On day 4, I was driving to the store, and someone cut me off like a maniac. Instead of the usual surge of road rage, I just let it go. It was a fleeting moment, totally outside my control. Why waste my energy? My evening journaling felt different. I wasn't just listing my failures anymore. I was noticing progress. The hardship wasn't just making me uncomfortable, it was recalibrating how I reacted to things. By day 5, a routine had set in. The floor felt normal, the food was just fuel. The morning premeditation started to feel less like a horror movie and more like a strategic planning session. I'd think about a potential problem for the day, a tough conversation, a tight deadline, and visualize how I'd handle it with calm and reason. It was becoming a tool for being prepared, not for being scared. I also noticed this deep sense of gratitude starting to bubble up. A simple glass of cold water felt like a luxury. The warmth of the sun on my skin during a walk felt incredible. By stripping away comforts, you don't just learn to live without them, you learn to truly feel them when they return. It forces you to want what you already have. On day 6, I felt a quiet confidence. Life's little annoyances just seemed to bounce off me. The mental space that used to be occupied by low-level anxiety was now surprisingly calm. I spent some time just being alone, as Seneca recommended, and realized I was more comfortable in my own company, less desperate for a distraction. It felt like my inner citadel was actually under construction. On the last day, I woke up before my alarm feeling rested. Seriously, I went through my simple routine with a real sense of purpose. Today, my premeditation wasn't about some huge disaster, but about the end of the experiment itself. How was I going to bring these lessons back into my very comfortable life? I realized the goal isn't to live a life of permanent hardship. That's not the point, and it's not sustainable. The point is knowing that you endure it. The whole week was a workout for my resilience. It was like a controlled burn to clear out all the mental junk. I ate my last meal of rice and beans, not with dread, but with a strange sense of gratitude for what it taught me. I was more than ready to sleep in my bed again, but I knew I wouldn't take it for granted. This experiment was a personal journey, and honestly, it was one of the most impactful weeks of my entire life. I'm genuinely curious, have any of you tried something like this? Or do you use any Stoic ideas in your own lives? Let me know down in the comments. And if you're interested in more self-experiments that question the way we live, think about subscribing. I'd love to have you along for the next one. So, after a week of sleeping on the floor and imagining the worst, what actually changed? First, my general, day-to-day anxiety has plummeted. Seneca was dead on. We really do suffer more in our imagination than in reality. By facing my fears head-on in a controlled way, they just lost their power over me. Thinking about the worst things that could happen paradoxically brought me a sense of peace. I feel way less reactive to small daily stresses because I've already faced the big ones in my mind. Second, my gratitude is through the roof. That first night back in my own bed felt like sleeping on an actual cloud. My first real meal was an explosion of flavor. This whole experiment is a perfect example of something psychologists call hedonic adaptation. We just get used to what we have, good or bad. By intentionally taking away comforts, you hit the reset button on your gratitude and find joy in the most ordinary things. And third, my self-discipline and focus are so much better. Choosing to be uncomfortable, even in these small ways, builds your willpower muscle. The daily reflection journal was a total game changer, making me so much more aware of my own habits and emotional triggers. You can't really lie to yourself when you have to write it down. It brings a surprising amount of clarity. So, can ancient Stoic wisdom actually build mental armor for the modern world? My answer is a loud and clear yes. This week was so much more than a quirky challenge. It was a profound lesson in perspective. I won't be sleeping on the floor every night. I'm definitely not eating only rice and beans ever again, but I am absolutely keeping some of these habits. The daily journal is now a non-negotiable part of my evening. And I'll keep practicing a modified version of premeditation, using it as a tool to prepare for my day and appreciate the present moment. Most importantly, I'm embracing the idea of voluntary hardship. Maybe it's just taking a cold shower, fasting for a day, or always taking the stairs. This experiment taught me that resilience isn't something you're born with. It's a skill, and just like any skill, it takes practice. It requires you to step outside your comfort zone and prove to yourself over and over that you can handle more than you think. In a world obsessed with finding the easy way, Seneca is a powerful reminder that there's incredible strength to be found by taking the hard way, by choosing to be the master of your own mind, not a slave to your circumstances.